It's a little bit of a struggle sometimes, but there you go.
If you don't like bees, you probably would not like Professor Amy Dunlap's lab at the University of Missouri St. Louis. But coming here was like coming home for Kamal Muse-Morris. He's now at Stanford University, but he first came here as a high schooler in the STARS program, which puts high school students in real labs with real scientists doing real science. Professor Dunlap asked him to stop by to help tell the story of a man they both admire.
Sometimes, I look around, I don't see people who look like me necessarily. So it was really great to hear about Mr. Turner.
I first learned about Charles Henry Turner when an award was created by the Animal Behavior Society, and it was named after him. And that award is a fellowship that brings students from underrepresented groups to their very first scientific meeting.
Charles Henry Turner was born in Cincinnati just after the Civil War ended. He was his high school's valedictorian. At the University of Cincinnati, he earned a master's degree in biology with a focus on animal behavior. Later, he earned a PhD at the University of Chicago. His dissertation was a study of ant behavior. He would hold various teaching jobs at black colleges and high schools, ending up in St. Louis at Sumner High. He probably would have been a good fit at Tuskegee Institute, but when he applied, the school had just hired George Washington Carver. His research was wide-ranging, but he's best remembered for his study of bees and other insects. And while he published more than 70 scientific papers, he never held a professorship at a major research university, almost certainly because of his race. But that wasn't the only thing that set him apart. His work was challenging mainstream thinking of the day. Today, it's considered groundbreaking.
He's really the founding father of insect cognition, and he started a field that never really got going again until the 1980s.
Turner came to St. Louis in 1908 to teach science at Sumner, the city's black high school in the Ville. He stayed for 14 years, and despite carrying a full teaching load and with no proper laboratory, no grad students, no funding, he independently continued highly sophisticated research. Dr. Turner put a lot of emphasis on field observations, and his outdoor laboratory was here in O'Fallon Park. He conducted a series of very carefully designed experiments. One of them tested honeybees' ability to recognize colors and patterns. And he was diligent. He repeated these experiments over and over and over again to test for all kinds of variables. He wasn't just observing bee behavior. He was tying it to bee intelligence.
And his views on cognition itself predated just about everyone's views on cognition until the 70s for any animal.
So explain to me what you mean by cognition.
Yeah, so for a long time, people thought that animals were just instinctual beings. They would respond to a stimulus, and they would have this innate response that they would do. So they were basically like little robots going around in the world. And he challenged that view early on.
In the conclusion of his PhD dissertation, Turner wrote this: "Ants are much more than mere reflex machines. They are self-acting creatures guided by memories of past individual experience."
And that was absolutely ahead of its time. Now what we are finding out is that insects have sophisticated cognition that people never guessed about. Honeybees have a concept of zero. Bees have cultural transmission. This is something we thought about for decades as only primates or dolphins or whales. And so there are no limits to what a small insect brain is capable in terms of problem solving.
So his work is still relevant.
Absolutely relevant, yeah.
Turner may have long been underappreciated, but he was published in his lifetime, and his work was cited by others, although perhaps not as much as it should have been. And in 1910, 2 years after moving here, he was elected the first African-American member of the Academy of Science of St. Louis. He was a brilliant scientist with incredible insight into animal behavior, but Turner also had plenty to say about human behavior. He was active in the early 20th century civil rights movement in St. Louis and wrote about what was then called the Negro problem, a problem he said that could be fixed through higher education for blacks and for whites.
I've worked with honeybees before this for like 2-3 years, and never once have I gotten stung. So I'm pretty lucky with that. That's something to celebrate, yes.
At Stanford University, Kamau has switched his focus from biology to international relations. But he takes with him lessons from this laboratory and from the life of Dr. Turner.
Really to see someone who's walked in those shoes and to have a path to even take what he went through, how he persevered. As growing up, and even when I first entered this interest, I didn't know about him, right? And it's something that's really sad because he's a large part of, Black history in this field.
Charles Henry Turner did some of his most important work during his 14 years in St. Louis, dedicated not just to his research, but to his young students and to the future of his people. But it took its toll. He retired from Sumner in 1922. Biographies describe him as overworked and underpaid. He died a year later at the age of 56. We should be amazed at what he was able to do and should ask what more he might have done, what more he might have discovered, how many future scientists he might have mentored. If only. For Living St. Louis, I'm Jim Kirchherr.